Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Call the meeting to order. May the 8th, 2012. Determine the voting members. Ms. Melanie Anderson. Tom Clay.
Present.
John Kreisman. Here. Jeff Hadley.
Present.
Mr. Thomas Hoover. Randy Huckabee. Here. Harry Moldenhauer. Here. Myself, Steve Dunn.
That means John votes in place of...
That is correct.
Correct, yes.
Tell Tommy should have.
Right. Moving on to item number 2, the minutes of our previous meeting.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes.
I have a motion to accept the minutes.
Second.
I have a second. Any further discussions? Corrections? All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Moving on to item number 3, our consent agenda. Please up, Mr. Hoover is here, present. Sir. Item number 3, our consent agenda. I have a motion to approve the consent agenda at this time. I have a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Moving on now to item number 9, Pine Ridge Park. John, would you bring this up to date?
Mr. Chairman, you have, please let me apologize, you have at your place setting, and certainly last night I emailed to you a corrected copy of the text for Pine Ridge Park. There was supposed to be 4 pages in the board package, and it looked like only page 1 made it in some of the board packages. And I'll briefly go down those 4 pages for the benefit of all the board members. The first part of the board package was to talk about what the OUA staff have accomplished since our last meeting. And I'll just run down these bullet items fairly quickly. On April 12th, the Circuit Court appointed the OUA as the receiver of the Pine Ridge Park utility system. On April 17th, the OUA had a public meeting for the Pine Ridge residents that wish to ask questions or communicate directly to OUA about their upcoming change in utility services. I believe we had about 30 people there approximately for about an hour to an hour and a half. Since that time, we've also replaced all of the residential meters out at the park and installed 3 master meters for the mobile home parks. I can tell you that we have found 3 leaks, at least 3 leaks in the water system due to the way the system was constructed. We have an example over here against the wall, basically made up of some pressure pipe that's tied together with a non-pressure rated sanitary tee that's typically found in a wastewater system. And that piece of pipe was leaking. It's held together with what appears to be caulking. So it's something that we've just run into out there. We found 3 of them. I don't know what else is out there in the water system. We'll just get that and just carry it around. We were going to use the contractor to operate the 2 plants, which we did. We finished out the month April. As of May 1st, our own employees are operating both treatment plants. We have had the sewer system cleaned and videotaped. They're in the process of finalizing the videotape now of the sewer system, so we can determine where the damage is in the system, whether it's tree roots, broken pipe, whatever. I have received 5 proposals for the engineering services or renewal of the treatment plant operating permit. We had a wide range of prices from $2,600 to $24,000. And we saw nothing, they all were fairly favorable, so we will probably go ahead and enter into a purchase order with the global engineering and contracting that submitted the $2,600 bid for the renewal on the treatment plant permit. And we're moving forward with repairing the fencing around the wastewater treatment plant site and the water treatment plant site where the posts are leaning, the fence is torn. Somehow we're going to get that back together. In the submittal that I gave to you, there were 4 potential projects for the water system. And they're labeled as Project 1 through Project 4. Project 1 is basically to do what we've done to date, which is to put in new water meters so that the accuracy of those water meters can be verified to customer usage. It doesn't really require anything else to be done other than to maintain and operate the system. Project 2 is defined as leaving that existing piping system as it is constructed and we operate it, but adding the use of automatic meter reading technology such that we don't have to go into the backyards to read the meters and deal with landscaping, sheds, dogs, whatever may be in the backyards. We can read them from the street automatically. Project 3, again with the exhibits that we've attached, is an idea where we go back and improve the piping system, putting our piping out front of the houses, moving the meters out front, and providing fire protection for our current Pine Ridge customers that we are acting as a receiver for the utility system. Or Project 4, which is again the same type of situation, bring in 8 6-inch water mains to the entire region out there, providing fire protection and the potential for water service to not only the current Pine Ridge customers, but all the customers in that area. The difference between the 2 projects is Pine Ridge, we have about 120, 130 meter connections, and Project 4 would bring it up to about 270 meter connections out there, potentially if the customers so chose to connect. Is there any questions so far? Am I just going fast, or otherwise
Would they not eventually have to be connected?
Based upon my last reading of the land development regulations for the county, the answer to that is no, they would not. The way I believe the LDR currently read is that if it was new development going in after the water main, they would be required to connect. But if it's an existing service and a new water main, I do not believe they would be required to do it. But I'd have to go back and check that because they do change the LDRs, and I'd have to make sure that that's required.
If I may, Frank, do you foresee, being a county commissioner, that any time in the future that might change, or they might be required?
I don't know. We haven't had any discussion about that. Not since I've been on the board anyway. But you do, there is some regulation though that they would have to pay the minimum charge after a certain period of time. John, is that right?
That's on the wastewater, if we provide
Just
wastewater.
Just wastewater.
What we can do, again, if we are supplying, say, fire protection to the entire community, we could assess the cost of the fire system protection to all of the properties that benefit from that service, if that's a route. choose to go that.
Well, we did 3 master meters, it says, and so we had 68 homes, is that right, that we hooked up, is that right?
I believe that was the number, something like that.
And then 3 master meters. If you do the one with where we replace all the piping and stuff, will we put individual meters to each one of those, or will we still do the master meters?
We'll still do the master meter.
Because it all balances out in the end, but I was
In a part, there's several reasons for the master meters. Some of the customers told us their utilities were already rolled into their monthly lot rent, which made no difference to us than if we put a master meter and bill the park owner.
Right.
They're already receiving monies from the renter.
right.
And then I believe there were several instances where we didn't have easements to be up on the private property where all the water lines were. So it just turned out better to be hook those 3 areas into a master meter, as opposed to the individual residential lots that we already had access to them with the water lines. And again, then we look at the possible funding scenarios for any of these projects, and clearly there are several options. And again, you can look through the meeting notes provided, anywhere from promissory notes to the individuals to special assessments or doing bank qualified loans for the entire project, and they both have their strong points. Certainly on the special assessments, it's tied with the taxes, and it's all or nothing. Pay the assessments, and the taxes or don't. Certainly the promissory note, it makes an individual agreement between us and the borrowers, the property owner. And the bank qualified loan, which is the benefit over the other 2, is that we get our money for the construction and everything up front, and then we recover that on a monthly or annual basis from the lot owners to pay back on the semi-annual loan payments. And clearly, if we're talking about a bank qualified loan, then the other issues that certainly we have to somewhat talk about and address is, are there other projects that we would like to accomplish to provide better service for the OUA in general? And clearly, as 2 examples that were put in here, were the upgrades to the existing OUA water treatment facilities provide softening or water quality improvements which would benefit everyone. And clearly, anybody that's been on the system has heard the issue about the hard water and what it does to faucets and hot water heaters and other fixtures in the house, and what the benefits of providing a softer water would be to the entire system. Or if we wanted to expand into other areas that were on the fringe of our water system that would also benefit from water line installation, either from service or fire protection needs. And as examples here in the board package were the upgrades to the water treatment plant to the tune of about $2.4 million is the estimate, or several water line installations in Basswood. Again, these are just only 4 examples for consideration. And that gets me to the last page. Clearly what
Before you get too far, can I ask you a couple?
Sure.
Back up.
Yes, sir.
Personally, I see project 1, 2, and 3. Project 1 is to do nothing. And if we do nothing and continue to operate the system as you proposed in Project 1, do we as the OUA, have you analyzed the rates so that we would realize or recognize a profit there to operate this such system?
What we have to do, and what the plan is with the Project 1, which is, whatever you want to call it, it's to do nothing more anyway, because we had to put in new meters so we can actually see what the consumption is out there. And obviously also the other deal is, since we had no records really provided to us, is to operate the treatment plants to see what our cost is. And then after several months of operation, we can see what the revenue stream is versus the cost to know how we're ending out that system. So the short answer to your question is, no analysis has been done because there really isn't any data yet.
Okay, so, and this is where I was going, is that, if we don't have that data, we don't know what we're looking at, I think we're kind of ahead of we got the cart before the horse here, and I think that, it would be advisable, that's just my personal opinion, to, ride this horse for a little while, see where we're at, and then make a decision. Of course, you're not asking us to do anything today, you're not asking anything to implement anything. But also in project one, so if we do nothing, the residents of Pine Ridge will continue to receive the same service in an inadequate system, whatever it be, but they won't have the leaks, we'll fix those and stuff, but in other words, the water quality and things of that nature will be the same.
What I will tell you is we have done.
Without spending any money other than fixing.
There is very limited treatment capacity over there. I mean, they basically aerate the water, disinfect it, and send it on down the line.
Right.
There's very little we can do.
Right.
We have gone in and cleaned the plant, we've cleaned the tray aerators, the tank, fixed the screening, we've changed some set points on the pumps. There's a few things that we have done in the short time that we've operated it, which would provide some better service to them. But what we've done is basically all they're gonna get.
Okay, so basically that, by saying that, they have a minimum quality of water there that, but it's as fine as we can provide.
In the short time that we've done it, that we have made what improvements we can make. There may be a few more that we can tweak, but it's not gonna be significant improvements in the water quality they get there.
And the life of this system out there that we've inherited, if you go with project one, or if we just kind of ride the horse for a while, the life of that system, did you kind of make a guesstimation of maybe how long we could hang with it?
The answer, I don't know the answer to that, because we'll have to actually check it for a few months to see if we fixed all the leaks and found them, and then we can just, the system will work.
Okay. Okay, and so project two, if we have all those unknowns, in particular the life of the system, and whether we are gonna be able to make any money or cover our expenses out there, project two is, in my opinion, go out of question. You know, go in there and try to update some meters and things like that any more than we have to just to keep it going. And so basically, the way I look at it, you know, we really have two main options there: project one and project three. But now project three would require right away work if we went in and replaced all the piping.
Correct, we would be in the right of way out front of the structures, out front of the houses, so there would be.
But we're not gonna dig up county roads and, other than to go under an intersection or under a street.
In the past, we have directional drilled underneath the county roads in most instances, and that certainly would be the plan going into it, that we would, where we had to make a road crossing, we would directional drill underneath them.
Yeah.
And clearly, the only difference between project 3 and 4 is the scope of work, which is tied to the number of customers that you potentially could add to the system, and certainly the upfront dollars.
Right. Now, none of these mention the sewer system. If we're gonna be digging in right of ways, wouldn't it be advisable to, at the same time you're violating those right of ways, to somehow figure in where you're gonna put a sewer system? Because if it comes back that it needs to be replaced, you'd have to dig and go through there again.
Currently, for the residential sections, the water and sewer is in the back lots. And so the question is, if you replace the sewer, do you go back in the back lots and do that, or do you put it out front and redirect everybody's wastewater flow to the front in the county right away?
But because of the encroachments and structures and things like that, anything in the backyards is almost impossible.
There would be an added element of construction because you'd have to go in and replace or remove temporarily all of the chain link fences.
Well, that's a nice way of saying that if and when that project was discussed, we'd want to go out front with it for simplicity.
I would clearly think in the design process, we would have to consider that, yes, sir.
And if we were to go with 3 or 4, and bring OUA water there, what type of, I'm trying to think, the pros of that, of course, there'd have to be some pluses to the residents for them to understand, you know, what the process is there. But the pluses are gonna be what, the fire protection,
Well,
a controlled quality of water,
pressure
pressure.
and flow, I mean, let's face it.
They're endless.
Yeah, there are certainly benefits to the existing customers, because right now their issues are water quality,
Yeah.
pressure, and flow. I mean, we can cut that, when we break that 2-inch main, it's only very limited as to how much water comes out. Matter of fact, when it is broken, they run out of water within 10 minutes. I mean, there's just no storage there.
Yeah.
So the issue is, if we bring in a new water main, it clearly is going to be better water quality, better pressure, better flow, and certainly fire protection. And so that's for the existing customers.
Fire protection, insurance rates will go down.
Yeah, well, that's the process by which the county has to get ISO to come out there and reevaluate all that. They would see a reduction in their insurance to some extent, but that would be a plus, but
What is the current water quality? Is it sulfur water?
I'll let Roy, he says more.
When we first acquired it, 2 of the wells worked, 2 didn't. We took some samples of that water. Well number 3 had sand in it, so we didn't want to use it. We've got the other 2 wells operating since then, and the biggest water quality issue is the hardness, and it's no more than what ours is coming from the groundwater plant. It's right around 250 parts per million on hardness. Well number 1 has no odor, but we do aerate it. You know, as far as just the standard tests we do, you know, every day, the water quality seems to be there. And we're using chloramines there, that's with the addition of ammonia for trihalomethanes. And I haven't seen any of the back reports on, you know, what they do annually or triannually. But the water quality is, you know, as good as it can be. I mean, I know that's kind of generic sounding, but I mean, I drink it.
Let me at least add this, though. There's at least some of the wells, there is a variance in water color. Some of the wells have clearer water or darker water, depending on how you look at it. And the water quality Roy is talking about is just the shift test that we run for hardness and things of that nature. The more important tests, like you would see on your CCR, Consumer Confidence Report, those water qualities, your secondary and primary, we haven't done, and I haven't seen those records. So the in-depth testing of the water quality, I don't have the answer for that. But the shift test for pH or scale or hardness, again, it's very similar to what you'd expect for groundwater. So if that kind of answers the question.
Yeah, I just wondered if taste and odor, I mean, you know, what is the customer perceiving as far as water quality at this point?
I can only tell you from what the 2 customers that were at the meeting and what we've met in the park is, again, those issues, color, and the pressure and the flow were all issues with it. And on the bad end, not
Right.
necessarily the good end.
And we've since, like John said earlier, we've adjusted the pressures where they're more stable area. They stay there longer, you know, it doesn't go way down before it comes on. And doesn't get up very high, so we've adjusted those what we can with the current pressure switching.
But number three, like Tommy was saying, I think what Tommy's saying is, you're gonna gain 125 customers, $370,000.
Right, that's a no-brainer.
Right, it's easy, it's easy math. And,
Now, go ahead.
but, that would put the system in up to us. We would never have to hand that back over if we spent this money, right?
Yes,
It would be our customers.
That is an important point. The current customers are customers of Pine Ridge Utility and not OUA customers. So by spending this money, you're gonna put in some backbone out there that we could always go back and add on, but we do bring those 125 customers onto the OUA system.
That leads me to, say that we as, a utility needs to go in the direction of project 3 and 4, and now that we've taken over the system, as the public utility for the county, we're held to a higher quality standard, to provide a service, and a well system, even though it's working, it is not what I consider a quality service, and so I think that's the direction we need to move. But is it premature to ask or to pay for the renewal of these permits if we're leaning in that direction? I mean, how soon can we jump on a project like this?
It's not premature. The issue is the permit renewals for the wastewater plant.
All right.
And we're not doing anything with that. This is all dealing with the water system.
I understand that, but
And let me back up. The wastewater permit renewal should have been started before March
Okay,
1st by the
that's what I-
previous owner.
that's
So
what I was wondering. Is
the DEP requires that they have a 180-day window to have the application in their house so that they can conduct whatever they need to do. So the plant itself is already in violation because it should have been done by March 1st, but that's the previous owner.
Okay, so we need to go ahead and do that now.
Yes, sir. By last month, the board already authorized us to enter into that agreement and to move forward with the permit.
Now associated with, say we choose to go, or, you recommend that we go with project 3 or project 4, there'll be some abandonment of water lines that we would not retrieve, they'd be left in the ground, et cetera, et cetera. One of my concerns is the cost associated with abandoning that system, and in particular, capping of those wells, which we would no longer need. Now, and we don't want that responsibility of those wells, any future contamination, the cost to cap them, what the water district or whoever permits the flow of those wells would have us monitoring. I mean, I wouldn't want that monkey on our back for the next 10 or 20 years.
Can we abandon them?
Well, yeah,
180 days, 60 days notice.
well, you'd have to. I mean, we wouldn't want it.
Okay.
But we've gotten something we really don't want, and we really, really don't want to monitor wells for the next 10, 20 years.
There's a good answer for that, and the answer is it's an agreement that Tom Conley is working on with the attorney with the current owner, and they wish to have that property back when we're done with it. So if we are to connect and do projects 3 or 4, let's say, where we can take the water plant offline, the ownership of that property and the associated facilities revert back to the owners of Pine Ridge Utilities, and it's their responsibility for whatever use they want to do with that piping system.
Right.
The wells, the treatment plant. That applies to both the water side as well as the wastewater side. When and if, down the road, we can do away with the wastewater treatment plant, the ownership of that property and the associated facilities that are on that property would revert back to the owner, Pine Ridge Utility, or Pine Ridge Management Corporation. That's the agreement that's trying to be worked out now between the OUA and the corporation. And, excuse me, but Tom, do you have any insight on?
Well, I just want to jump in and say, this isn't our system. We're only operating as the receiver. As the receiver, we have no obligation whatsoever to do projects 2, 3, and 4, because it's not ours. All we're doing is managing it for the owner under the court authorization. Until we take it over and until we decide to acquire that system, I think 2, 3, and 4 may be, it's nice to talk about them, but I don't see, I mean, I think it's premature to be talking about those because it's not ours. I mean, I'm just trying to caution you, you're wearing two different hats. One is the owner and one is the receiver. As the receiver, we're supposed to be sure that the services they're receiving, the utility services those customers are receiving, are not interrupted. And we're doing that. That's our legal obligation. But we have no legal obligation to go forward with any upgrading or improvement of that system, because technically any of those upgrades that we've done and the monies that we have put out so far are owed back to us by that system. And the other thing is, we've had no revenue stream coming in from it yet, right, John?
So that's correct. We don't have any money coming in yet. That's correct.
Who is the receiver for revenues?
We are.
We are.
We'll be the billing, we'll be collecting the revenue, and our responsibility is to those customers out there to make sure that their service isn't interrupted. We're, installing the new meters and repairing leaks to the system, that would be our responsibility. Installing the new meters, that's really not our responsibility, but it's done to help us more than to help the customers out there. Well, you can disagree with me, but whatever. But we have no obligation whatsoever to install new meters on there, but we have done it. And that system owes us for those costs that we're out of pocket on that. So you got to keep in mind ownership versus receiver when we talk about these items that are project 1, 2, 3, and 4 is outlined here.
So basically, we need to ride this thing, see how much it's gonna cost us, look at all the revenue streams, look at everything, and then make a decision.
Basically, that's what I'm saying. It certainly doesn't hurt to have an eye on it, and it certainly doesn't hurt to have an idea of what kind of cost you're looking at. But right now, we're trying to put together the contract whereby we acquire that system. Once we acquire it, then this would certainly be appropriate to talk about these things that we're talking about here.
And let me at least say that we can agree to disagree on the meters, but what I will tell you is that the meters that were out there, I had no validity as to their calibration and how they were accurate. There were meters that were missing and there were meters that were broken. And if we start talking about a revenue stream and trying to operate in the black versus the red, then it is necessary to replace the meters so that we would have an accurate reading on those meters. And certainly Project 2 doesn't do anything to change the water system. It's just an idea that rather than taking 4 to 5 hours to read the meters because of hopping, going around fences and dealing with pets and whatever else, you could accurately read the meters from the front yard and do it in 30 minutes.
It's a convenience matter.
It's an efficiency issue that saves us money, yes.
And that's an expense that would be owed back to us by those customers out there.
What are we looking at time here, John? What are you thinking? 4 or 5 months of putting together something to look at, or?
I would hope this agreement that they're working on could be back here at the board meeting next month.
I do too.
Yeah,
That would be the next thing, is considering the terms of that agreement, if they're acceptable to the board and approving it, then we can talk about a closing date. Once that, then we'd have to go back and get court approval for us to acquire that. Because we have a fiduciary responsibility as a receiver.
So we still got months here that we can get
Yes.
we can get some history of what we're dealing with.
Yes.
Does the county, Tom, they were the receiver and
No, the county never was a receiver.
okay,
The county had the responsibility to move forward to get a receiver
and
appointed.
they appointed us.
Yes.
Alright. So. Okay.
Where are we at with billing at this point? I mean, do we have a list together or?
We do have a list, and our process right now is that even though and I'll take the previous owner's word that they said they read the meters, okay? I can tell you, we go out there and there's 6 inches of dirt on top of the meters. They probably weren't read, in my opinion, very often. So what we have done is this week, we're going out and doing a pre-read on the meters after they've been installed for a few weeks to give the new owners an idea of what their consumption is, because they may not even have a clue as to how many hundreds or thousands of gallons that they use on a monthly basis. So the meters have been installed for a couple of weeks. We'll do a pre-read and give all of the owners an idea that in the past several weeks they've used so many thousands of gallons. Extrapolating that out, here's what your monthly bill may be on June 1st. Our scheduled read date is near the end of May. And that means a week later, they would then get their bill sometime in the 1st of June, and we'll start billing them on a monthly basis, both their base facility charge and their volumetric use and consumption. Whereas
Do they have a base facility charge? I mean,
but my understanding is that $48 a month is what the base charge, the documents that were given to us by the owner said that they billed them $48 a month, and every 6 months they read the meters and gave them a consumption bill. That's what was told us. Now, some of our folks that are in the field said, yeah, I got a bill from them, I watered it up and threw it on the ground because I told them I didn't like the service they were providing. I don't know if that's true or not. I'm just telling you, that's some of the stuff we hear.
so if,
No wonder they went.
and this is just,
So what we're saying is, we will do this read this week and give them a tentative look at what their bill's gonna be in the coming month. Because if somebody had never been billed for volume, and all of a sudden, you know, they use their water for anything and everything, they might be, shocked is a nice way to put it, when they get a bill for 15,000 gallons of usage or something. I mean, it's just, so we'd like to go ahead and give them at least a preliminary look at what their use is.
You see, another thing, let me point out to you, that money's not our money.
that's,
Right.
It's,
We get paid back what we've spent.
correct. Because we'll have to render an accounting on that to the
Right.
court as well as to the present owner.
Right.
So
Basically, we're gonna recover our costs.
we should recover our costs.
well, you don't see, anything, an obstacle in there to, I mean, we're gonna end up with this project, right?
If the board so elects and the contract gets approved and the deal closes, yes, but it's not ours,
Oh,
yes.
I understand, I mean, you
Okay.
don't see any wrenches being thrown in there.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
So to put it mildly, this has been clearly an experience.
An adventure.
Yes, sir.
You got 60 houses on master, or 60 lots on master meters, those are the ones that concern me, because you're billing park owners.
That will be a big difference, that we will be 2 park owners and a business owner. The business owner already wanted the match, they're in favor of that. The 2 park owners, there is some, for 2 different reasons, they have different viewpoints. On the one, owned by Mr. Gurnett, the residents had billing from Pine Ridge. He didn't have to deal with the utility business. now he is gonna be in the utility business. The other side of the coin was the owner of the utility system, and of course their lot rent includes utilities. So it's a very easy transition to making that a master meter. For the other park owner that has like 22, I had a meeting with him yesterday, and we went through the process where we can bill him. We left the old piping system in, the old meters. He could read those meters on a monthly basis and figure out what the individual uses are and prorate the bill if he wanted to. So I think he has a mechanism to pass on to the renters their proportionate share of the cost of the overall monthly bill.
Yeah, I just hope we get paid.
Again, based on some of the stories that I've heard where they might wad it up and throw it away, we might have some real issues there.
We might, yeah.
Yeah, but if you're on a master meter, you shouldn't that.
Well, and even on an individual meter,
Yeah,
I mean, we have, I mean, we've had all types, we had folks that said that they're not on the sewer system, they're on the septic tank. Well, with the help of the health department and our folks, we found out there's no septic tank, and they're on the system. And,
That was one of the questions I was gonna ask you. Did you find anybody that's put in a well, you know, for their home and not using the system?
there were two houses that said they were on septic and they were on their well and they weren't a part of the utility system. And when we did the checking, there are no septic tanks, they are on the sewer system. And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong here, but the judge said that OUA policies will prevail in our operation and maintenance of this utility. And if that's the case, there is an OUA policy that says if you're connected to the sewer system, you've got to be connected to the water system. So if those two houses are on a well and they're connected to the sewer system, they will be required to
They're gonna
connect.
get a bill. Okay.
I think we beat it around till we, I understand it.
Is our system acquisition for both the water and wastewater utility as one entity, or they're separate
It's
contracts?
one contract for the system.
Well, that's another reason to not do anything, I think, until we kind of get our permit renewal a little further down the road and see how much money is gonna be spent there.
Well, clearly, the permit renewal for the wastewater plant, you know, we'll get that started, and that's like about a 2-month process. For us to get the application, and whatever DEP takes. Clearly, the other idea will be the agreement, if there is going to be one, to acquire the utility system, and then we can take from there. But there'll be clearly some, you know, some idea that we'll gather more data and see what the financial results are in the coming months.
Moving right along.
Yeah, very good.
Moving on to item number 10, scenarios or allocations of unrestricted funds.
Since we've rounded the corner for a new year, it's now the time to do the analysis of the unbudgeted surplus that we have generated from the prior year, and to determine, as we have in the prior year, where those remaining unbudgeted net operating revenue should be parked. I've proposed, the staff proposed 2 possible, well, actually 4 options. The first option, given the likelihood that we're going to have some CIP funding requirements over the next period, to actually put the $346,000 in the future CIP fund. Number 2 is to take the 346 and put it into the rate stabilization fund. Noting too that the amount that we had budgeted to go into the rate stabilization fund is a little different than was on a budget, because this is actual amounts that we're dealing with in item 2. third is whatever the board so wishes to do with the funds. And the do nothing, which is scenario 4, is really meaning that right now, tentatively, it's parked in the unrestricted general operating funds.
And in the past, we have,
We put it both places, we put it in the CIP and the rate stabilization.
I thought, but we put the bulk of it in the rate stabilization.
Well, we put it in both places, but we have put a, certainly the bulk when you're talking about the monies generated from the 2 previous rate increases,
Right.
that's automatically gone in the rate stabilization fund. That's a large chunk of money. But the smaller surpluses that we end up with, these unallocated funds, have been directed into the CIP, the capital improvement projects, and the rate stabilization fund, with the understanding that even if the money goes in those funds, it's board action that takes spending that money at some time in the
Back
future,
out.
regardless of which fund it goes into.
Right.
What staff, I'm sorry, Tom.
Go ahead. No,
What staff recommend?
From my perspective, they're both equally good funds, but the capital improvement, we know that we have some projects coming up that we may want to do, whether it's Pine Ridge, water treatment plant, there should be some money put in there. Certainly, we are putting a lot into the rate stabilization fund, which can go anywhere. I mean, that money coming out of the rate stabilization fund can be allocated again anywhere you want to in the future. So both of them are equally good.
What are you estimating that Pine Ridge is going to cost us? You know, just if we do nothing and we ride along on this thing for 2 or 3 more months.
I'm hoping that there are, well, let me at least say, let me try to answer it this way. Once we get through with the videotaping of the collection system, we'll have a better understanding of what it's going to cost us right now. And at the very least, I know there are manholes that you can poke fingers through, they have leaks. So we may be spending another $40,000, let's say, out there to fix manholes. Other than that, I don't foresee us having to spend a lot until I get to look at the video. So I don't expect a lot to be out there, other than fixing those manholes.
And that's considered a capital project,
Yes, sir.
even though it's not our system, it's Tom.
Well,
Well, we'll get it back.
we
And-
may get it.
Well, we should get it back.
Should get it back.
Yeah, so, and that's my question. I mean, I think that we ought to, not to break tradition, but I think that the bulk of the surplus should be put into rate stabilization, as it was kind of intended to when we had our rate increase and that sort of thing. But
Keep in mind, the only money that was allocated for the rate stabilization fund were those funds tied to those 2 rate increases, which would be the $76,000, which is automatically going there.
I understand.
This money, again, in the past, has been allocated between the 2 funds.
Right, and that's what I was saying, but I think that, with if we put $100,000 into the capital projects out of this surplus, that should get us through Pine Ridge and into the planning and anything future that we're gonna have this year. Because something's gonna happen out there this year.
Right.
And then take the balance and put it into the rate stabilization fund. And that, I know it sounds like a even round number and simple, but like I said, we can always go back should that project have more.
The beauty of the rate stabilization fund is when you pull that money out, you can directly go anywhere.
Right, and that's what I'm saying, but let's go ahead and maybe earmark some of those funds for that. I make a motion that 100,000 of the 346,420 go into the capital projects fund, and the balance go to the rate stabilization fund.
Motion, second. Any further discussion by the board members? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, agenda item number 11 is there was a request by the board for staff to go back and look at the properties owned by the OUA, more specifically 3 properties owned by the OUA. The 66 acres, or the remaining portion of 66 acres down by the lake, along with a residential property down there on State Road 78, and the property here on Southwest Park Street, where the had been proposed to be the site of the administration building. go back and contact several local realtors to get some valued input from them as to what our options could be for this property, as to whether to sell it, and if we were to sell it, what might be an expected outcome. And I can tell you that we did, as suggested there in the board package, we contacted a number of them. We had 3 of them that said they would respond, 2 actually responded, and basically their intent was that if we were to market the property, we certainly were expecting to take a loss on the property over and above what we had paid for it at the time of purchase. So, other than that, I think we can only come back with the results that we had, and we await other board action, or what you'd like to do.
Well, at least the guys know we were thinking about it, so if somebody stumbles along and got some funds, wants to make us an offer, we could at least look at it. You know, for the values, I'd sit tight for a while. At least we got a good idea. And again, I think we've thrown it fine, as you said, 2 responded.
2 actually responded. I think we've contacted 5 and gave them the idea of where the properties were and what we did. This basically this informational sheet. So there were 5, and I'm assuming they were all probably at different shops. So certainly that word is out there.
I think it should be noted, since we brought this before the board, and you know, the public understand that the large piece down the lake was utilized, and it's utilized on a daily basis. So it was not just a whim that property was purchased. You know, there was a reason for it. It just was how the contract went together to buy it when we put in the pond down there. And some people may construe that as, you know, not a wise move, you know, to buy that much acreage, but that, you know, people have to understand that we use it, it's just, you don't have,
It was all or none purchase.
right, it was one of those kind of deals where we had to have such a parcel, or a part of that parcel, and it was, like I said, all or none type.
That is correct.
And that even though those values aren't, the market values don't justify us owning that property, the fact that we use that property on a daily basis, and it's instrumental in our operation, that it does have a value far greater than the market value. So just that the general public doesn't misconstrue that piece of parcel. And
Did we use what, 30 acres of that, basically, about 66?
well, yeah, but you also have your accesses in there to it. So you know, it's like we don't have to pay for right-of-ways. We don't have to pay for, you know what I'm saying, and we don't have to rely on somebody else to let us have ingress or egress. So there's a greater value there than the market value suggests. And I just think that point needs to be made, that, you know, should the public question that, they understand that value to us is, you know, undetermined, but it's a greater value than the market.
We got what we wanted, so.
Well, I mean, it was necessary, so that's how the system operates.
Item number 12, top engineering funding.
Mr. Chairman, you have at your, what was emailed to you, and certainly placed in your setting, was an item that did not make the board package going out on Thursday, and it should have been here provided at the last board meeting. We were talking about the acquisition or the consultative use permit that was granted by the district at the last meeting. But I did get with AECom, and I did want to share with the board that they had exceeded their scope of work in acquiring this consultative use by attending multiple meetings with the county staff, city staff, and district staff to try to acquire this permit. This permit required even legal review because of the way that we had to acquire the use of the ledger water out on the lake, and that this permit was not to be granted by staff or the district board, but it had to go through another process to have the executive director of the district approve it. And I could clearly indicate to the board that the $3,511.95 that AECom is requesting is well worth it for this 20-year permit that we got.
I make a motion, we go ahead and approve the payment of the $3,511.95 to cover the additional costs.
I have a motion by Mr. Hoover.
Second.
I have a second by Mr. Clay. Any further discussions by this board? All those in favor? Aye. The motion carries.
Item number 14 has been added to your board package. Again, this is a new engineer that's working for us, Eckler Engineering, and they didn't get us their invoice till Friday, so it's up to the board as to whether or not you want to consider and approve this. But Eckler Engineering is doing the work at our vacuum station number 1. They have put the project out for bid. They have developed the bid specification, and it is on the street right now for consideration for bidding by several contractors. They are also working on the phase 2, which is the analysis of the collection system to see what improvements need to be done to vacuum station number 1.
And they just did, the only issues is that we didn't receive it in time.
I believe it came in on Friday, and they got the hard copy in the
Yeah.
mail on Monday.
Okay, and that's understandable, so I make a motion that we approve the payments, invoice payments to Eckler Engineering.
I have a motion by Mr. Hoover.
Second.
Let me ask you for clarification, there are two.
I was just saw that, okay, $12,690. I guess those both came at the same time.
2 letters and one, 2 different invoices and 1 letter yesterday.
Okay, and phase 2 amount $1,385, and my motion, should need to be amended, includes or is for station 1 and the rehab on phase 2, both amounts.
Motion by Mr. Hoover, amended, cover everything.
Is that seconded?
I have-
The amendment?
Do I have a second?
Somebody did.
Tom?
Yeah, I second. I'm looking at what we did here, so. Okay, yeah, I've got a second.
Okay, we have a second.
Let me catch up.
Any further discussion?
So it's 1385 and 12690.
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
Clarification, I may have missed that meeting. Did this go out for bid?
The selection of this firm?
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
The selection of the engineering firm?
Yes.
Yes, sir, right, it did.
They came
And
and
they
gave
came
a
in and proposed.
presentation.
Metzger and Willard and Eckler did a proposal here, or presentation.
There's
And then-
nobody local that is qualified to do this kind of work?
Now you're asking me to go back and remember if they submitted or not. I don't know, I don't remember that answer.
This is the ones that actually, it come down to 2. Well, it might have been, I think it was your dad or something. But it come down to 2, and this is the group that just seemed to be look better as far as their presentation and their,
Well, that facts.
Their creative thinking.
their creative thinking of using a pump truck instead of shutting the systems down. I mean, they had a lot of things
That's
that.
some really innovative
Yeah,
ideas.
yes, and they were gonna try to take the tank out through the front door by cutting it up, which they found they can't do that, but they come up with a lot of ideas, and the one that kinda sold me was the one of using a pump truck instead of shutting
Yeah.
Right.
the facility down.
I remember the discussion later.
But didn't we originally have 4
Had 4,
submittals?
yeah.
Yes.
We had 4
Yeah.
submittals,
And then we
committee
dragged
carried it
them.
down
Right.
to 2.
I'd just like to see, if we got local people that are qualified,
In answer to your question, I believe they were all notified of the project, and it was up to them to elect whether or not they wanted to do
okay,
it.
good deal.
All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
Yes, sir, I only have two things to tell you. With the Land Ventures appeal brief was due about 2 weeks ago. They requested and were granted an automatic extension. The appellant was to file the brief, so now we expect the initial brief to be filed probably within the next week to 10 days. So we're still on hold on that coming in. The other thing I would tell you, the Flores contract on purchase of the property is in the process of being prepared for closing. I don't have a closing date, but probably by the time we have our next meeting, that deal will have been closed. Other than that, I don't have anything else to tell you. I already did my spiel on Pine Ridge Park.
Is this you, Tom?
I was gonna bring it up under myself.
Oh,
Items from the executive director.
I only have one thing we received. I received it indirectly, and it was addressed to me, but from the Florida Rural Broadband Alliance, they were requesting to use R2 water towers for some kind of microwave antenna deal. My only thought to the board is, certainly right now, I would not be in favor of putting that up there because it's so much different than a radio antenna, but I would at least like to say that I would think it would be prudent for this group to present to the board, if you were so inclined to want to hear from them on the use of our water towers for for what they're proposing here.
Was any interference with any of the existing systems in Okeechobee County?
This and 2 lease agreements are all I have. I don't know anything about it. I can tell you that the last time that we had a proposal, what it came down to was whether it was truly for a for-profit or a not-for-profit organization. I can't tell you anything about this. This is the extent of what I know about it, and I would certainly have to go back to Ms. Reynolds and ask for additional information, or I could clearly go back and ask them for a presentation to the board if the board was inclined to consider their request of using our water tower.
Why don't you maybe give her a call rather than bring me to the board and do the legwork first? See where it may lead.
Yeah, find out if it is a for-profit or not-for-profit, if it's something they're trying to do for storms or, you know.
Yeah, again, my only concern is what they mentioned in the lease agreement was that, we wouldn't be allowed to have personnel up on the tower because of radiation. And I just, I look at that, our maintenance folks going up to do inspections on the tower. It's an added.
What's it do to the
Water
water?
risk.
You can find it at night because it was low.
Reading, to give you a little more information on this, they sent a proposed lease with this. The lease gives you a little insight because apparently there is a huge grant for facilities that put for companies that do this kind of thing. But part of it requires a matching contribution. They don't want to pay us anything for this, and that's credited as part of their matching contribution to pick up the grant. But other than that, I don't know anything about it. It's money, the money's tied to it.
Yeah, I'd say look at it, but I wouldn't spend a lot of time on it.
and you might check to make sure that should their grant go through,
Yeah, let's see the
federal communications laws, not state, county, or municipality law, govern that transmission common, and that's been an issue with cell towers on properties and things around the county.
They'd have to comply with all of that. We'd be held harmless from any of that.
No, I understand that. What I was saying is whether you can deny them to, if it's determined by the SEC, whether you can deny them access. I know there's been some legal issues about that, and I don't know why they picked our water tower instead of something else.
Well, the truth be known.
But that is a.
Okay, I'm gonna ask.
Yeah.
But I mean, truth be known, once in 2005, when we put VFDs on all our water service, high service pumps, from the standpoint for treasure island, we don't even need that tower.
Right.
Because it's, the purpose that it was installed for is no longer needed. Now, Buckhead is a little different because of the length of where it is from our plans and fire protection. But for Treasure Island, if you were to authorize us to have it demolished, our system would not see any difference. I mean, it just doesn't provide what it used to.
That's a beacon for those lost sailors on Lake of the Joke.
Well, I would imagine if we had proposed to take it down, there would be people that would also be upset because they no longer have their water tower, you know, it says Treasure Island.
Right.
Me being one of them. All right, well, I will try to gather some information and somebody bring it back in a future meeting. Bates was pointing out to me, at your place setting is the first look of the preliminary budget that will be discussed at the next board meeting, where we will have our first public hearing, and the process is we will need to adopt a preliminary budget as a starting point for our future meetings, workshops, discussions. What I would ask each and every one of you is to spend whatever time you can on this, and before the next board meeting, we'll be in contact with you to try to set up a one-on-one meeting here at the office to go over any questions, comments, concerns, or presentation of this material before we get to the June board meeting. So, everyone should have one of these, so please take it. If you can't sleep tonight, pull it out, look at it in detail, but more importantly, we'll be in touch and we'd like to set up a meeting one-on-one with each of you to discuss.
Quickly, where are we standing with getting our force main, all that stuff done with, you know, last month we had to pay more money and we were waiting on Willard, well, I can't think who it was.
Baxter and Willard.
Yeah, Baxter and Willard, and where are we at with all this?
I had a conversation with the operating principal, Mr. Willard, and Nancy Metzger, and shared with her our displeasure, my displeasure more specifically, with the idea that I'd had a meeting with their engineer and said if there's some cost, get it to us, and it was months later that they got the information. I had a conversation with Jeff Sumner with AECom, who is the lead on the project. They have closed their local office and had to move everything to Palm City. And he assured me that that document will be in our hands this week to get to for review and then on the USDA. So that is the game plan, that he will have us a document this week with the move that's delayed, transferring offices and paperwork. But he assured me we would have that this week sometime.
And
then we get that submitted to USDA, and it's in the pipeline heading out to wherever it's headed.
I had one thing, John, and I don't even know where they're at with it. The scuttlebutt with all the expansion at the Ag Civic Center and how we have become in the center of a project there. And I know you're on top of it, but is that something that is there capital improvements or some projects there that we would have to address?
I can tell you what I know about it. As of today, May 8th, nobody that is proposing the grant or nobody with the county has specifically spoken to me or the OUA about our treatment plant. I've heard nothing from anybody. So my
do you
information.
Expect that, or is it the
Certainly, as it was brought up as my understanding at the last county commission, I would have expected somebody to be in touch with us since then.
yeah?
But I can only tell you that nobody has. So I can only go by, again, what I picked up in the
Right.
paper and heard. is that at some point in time, they're expecting to go with building bathrooms out there, which one would expect would increase the flow to our treatment plant at Everglades. And just as a background for folks, as this project started, way back when the Agri-Civic Center was proposed, DEP was not going to allow them to build it because of the limited treatment capacity at Everglades School. But there was some negotiations that the school uses it Monday through Friday, the predominance of the events being Friday, Saturday, and Sunday at the Agri-Civic Center. There should be a competition for that treatment. So there was a limitation of the amount of flow that would be accepted from the Agri-Civic Center. That's why there's a concern right now that if they're adding bathrooms that currently were being utilized by portable toilets or whatever, something that would not be contributing to the flow, is an issue. And like I said, today, I haven't heard anything.
Okay. And I know when they did their last expansion out there, and that's when they determined that the system or the pipe wasn't adequate for the expansion the last time that the county, I think there was something in the paper the other day about it. But if the school owns the plant, we're just the operator, right?
I don't think so. I think we actually own the plant, but Tom, we do too. I think we own the plant.
We own the land around the plant, or the plant sits on?
I think we do.
I think we do.
Okay. Well, what I was gonna say is, all we do, if we're just the operator, I mean, that may be something to find out, because if the school owns the site,
I think we do.
you think that they deeded us that parcel?
I feel certain that they did.
Well, I think
but
that's
I'll double
something
check
that we need to find out.
Okay, I will.
And I know the permits are ours. I mean, we apply for
That
a
is
permit
correct.
as the operator.
That is correct.
But if we don't own the site, then we don't call the shots at the site. We're the operator for the plant, for the school, right? I mean, would I be right? Now, if we own the site, or the school has deeded us that parcel of land.
Yeah, sorry, but I'll check.
But does it, and if we abandon it, it reverts back to them, probably something in there.
It doesn't work like that.
You can have it, but that's an issue that needs to be brought up, and the group that's proposing this addition and has got behind it to push the county to do this project, may be way ahead of themselves in laying some groundwork there to get something like that going. And I think where they're going, if the county does do that, and I may be wrong, maybe speaking out of line, if they'd have their own, some type of facility there, whether it be a septic drain field system or whatever. And we wouldn't have to use it, but I'd kind of like to know, I mean.
I tell you what I'll do, we'll research the property.
Yeah, and that way we can make.
And we'll research the flow, and we can certainly bring something back to the board if you wish next month as to where we're at with it.
I just wanted to know, that's all.
What are you suggesting, if we abandon the plant, that the county may actually keep it?
Well, you know, we kind of inherited Pine Ridge. We might. That's all in jest. I didn't mean it. I just did. But if the school, I mean, I didn't know. I didn't know. I think that's a valid question and something to find out if we actually, you know, the school has actually given us that parcel of land and it is our plant and we operate it, or if we're just operators of a plant that the school owns. And if it's theirs, the school's, then I would think that they would have a say in it. As to the flow. I'm done.
Well, we'll research that.
Yeah. I'm done.
Anything further from any other board members at this time?